Yeah, I make it 10:30. Am I getting a sign? Yes, a thumbs up sign from the hatch at the back. So we're online. Okay, welcome to this meeting of the Governance and Ethics Committee. This is the first one after the annual council meeting, and there has been a change in membership, which is not reported on the agenda. You can see the change in the committee structure, well, not structure, but in the membership. Councillor Bailey now is Vice Chairman. Councillor Lee had enough of me and has cleared off to be with Councillor Butler. Frying pan and fire come to mind, but still, there we are. It's a pleasure, and we're delighted to see you here again. The first item then on the agenda are the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of April. I think there's probably only a couple of members here who were at that meeting. I was stuck on a broken down cruise ship with only a bottle of champagne to keep me comfort, apart from Mrs. Owen, and the champagne won out. Wow, she's probably watching this actually. She watches me on YouTube to see what I'm up to. Can you backplay and delete that? So, do you two agree that it's a true and accurate record? Thank you very much. I'll sign those afterwards. The next item is probably going to be the longest item on the agenda. Apologies for absence. And I can't remember them all, so I'm handing over to the Democratic Services.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have a list. Apologies for other reasons received are from Councillors Deakin, Meakin and Helen Ann Smith without substitutes provided. We have apologies from Councillor Barnfather, who's being substituted by Councillor Butler. Apologies from Councillor Payne, and the substitute is Councillor Creamer. And we also have apologies for medical illness reasons from Councillor Saddington, and the substitute today is Councillor Lawton. Thank you.
Good. Well, welcome to those who are substituting. Some are old stagers at substituting. I don't know why they don't become permanent members, but that's up to their business managers to sort out. So if you're happy to accept those, can we move on to item 3, which is declarations of interest by members and officers? Are there any declarations? Nope. Good. And so next item is the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman's decisions, March to May 2024. Again, it's divided into two. Those cases which the Ombudsman didn't see fit to proceed with. And I think what is encouraging is that in some cases, the reasons he's not or she's not decided to go ahead is because they have been resolved satisfactorily, as far as the Ombudsman is concerned, internally by our own complaints resolution team. And this committee has encouraged that to be part of the process, that if we make a mistake as an organisation, we should hold our hands up, say sorry, do what we can to put it right, and get on. And I think the Ombudsman is now acknowledging that, and so all credit to Richard and his team, and to senior officers generally. There has been one case where the Ombudsman has found fault. I think it's quite unfair. You will see that the fault was because a care home did not handle a complaint in terms of appropriate communication in the way that the Ombudsman thought appropriate. And the fault has been found against the council simply because we commissioned the place in the care home. Now, I think it's absolutely ludicrous that we as an authority should be held responsible for the failings in communication of a care home. I think I was told there are over 400 care homes in Nottinghamshire. How on earth can we expect to know what is going on in terms of the complaints that they are trying to resolve? And so I think this is grossly unfair and not appropriate. But the Ombudsman says, well, that is the legislation and I've got no choice. I don't know whether the relevant department want to say something on this particular case before I throw it open?
Well, just to add that we've completed all the actions that were recommended, and in addition to that, our quality and market management team have spoken to the home and have made it really clear about what good communication would look like. And also, we have regular newsletters that go out to all our providers, because this could be any provider really not communicating the outcome of a complaint well. So we've put a reminder out in that as well. But as Councillor Owen says, it is quite a high level of detail to be able to in any way manage by our providers.
Are you putting on any training events for care homes as to how they might be able to manage complaints more effectively? Is it something we could look at?
So I think when we go into undertake an audit with a care home, how they manage complaints and their communications is something that we look at on an individual basis, so we address it in that way.
Fine. It might be worth looking at perhaps at a formal training organised by the department. I don't know whether, Richard, that's something your department could perhaps get more actively involved in to try and head this off at the pass.
Yeah, funny you say that. I have had conversations with some of Gemma's team actually around that, and we've given some names. In fact, we even gave an Ombudsman contact name to them to potentially be involved, because they offered another complaint that was similar to this a few months back. They said, well, if you want us to be involved in any kind of shaping of courses, give us a shout. So I've left it with them.
Good, thank you very much. Well, before I throw it open, I move the recommendation that's on page 9.
Second it.
Thank you. Any observations, any comments, any questions? No? Well, in that case, can we move to the vote? All those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. No one against. So, if we can move on to the next item, which is the Governance and Ethics Annual Report, which is set out starting on page 23. Sorry, have I missed one?
Yeah.
I do apologise. I'm getting ahead of myself. I blame it on the monitoring officer. She's got another important personal engagement this morning, and she wants me to get through the meeting quickly. So it's entirely the monitoring officer's fault.
It always is.
No pressure there. You always do as the monitoring officer tells you if you want to stay out of trouble, don't you? Right, I'm sorry about that, my mistake. Item 5 is the update on impact of adult care financial services of improvement measures arising from the review. If you recall, at the start of this administration, we had a significant number of upheld complaints from the Ombudsman about, in essence, poor communication. And we basically said to the department, get your act together and get it sorted. This is the report of the improvement measures that have arisen from the review that they undertook in 2023. And clearly it would appear to be having some impact, because I don't recall the last time we had a complaint of poor communication upheld against the department. But would you like, as service director, to say a few words about this and the journey that you've undertaken?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So really pleased to bring this morning, because it is really positive piece of work and progress. Our adult care financial services, one of their main functions is assessing people if they need to make a contribution to their care. So it's obviously quite a difficult issue for many people and their families as well. And many people don't actually know that they might have to make a contribution to their care. So communication is really important. And as you'll see in the report, we've done a lot of work. We haven't had any Ombudsman report where we've been found at fault. We've resolved those and have taken a much more compassionate approach to how we resolve concerns with people and call them and talk it through, etc. And we've done things like review all the letters that we send out, which can be a bit technical, but we've had people with lived experience working on those, so that the tone of the letters, for example, is very different. So in terms of numbers of complaints, we still have around the same level of complaints, around 77 a year as we had previously. But just in the context of that, we undertake about 13,000 financial assessments or reviews every year. However, we do want to aim to reduce that number of complaints as well. And hopefully you'll see in the report it will come through that rather than it just being a project where we've done some actions and completed them, the team's culture's really changed and they've got a process of continuous improvement. So if they receive a complaint, the team will meet about it. They'll look at it and they'll say, is there anything else we need to change or do differently in the future to avoid this being repeated? So just that assurance that that's now part of how that service operates on an ongoing basis. But I'll leave it open to questions.
Thank you. Well, I'll move the recommendation first of all.
Second it.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions on this report? Councillor Lawton.
Yes, I mean, just literally to say congratulate the system, really, for dealing with this issue, starting with yourselves, and then Sue taking on board recommendations from the committee to be able to deal with it, which is exactly what should be happening. So it's good to see that the process is operating as it should do, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, yes, paragraph 12 with the 6 key points of how we respond and deal with people are well, it's obvious common sense, really, isn't it? And I wonder as well, really, without sounding too crass about it, whether this is something can also be spread around all other departments in the council, because at the end of the day, whichever department, we are dealing with members of the public and here to help. So it's always worth keeping these little points in mind that just to help improve communication in the service.
Okay. Councillor Henry, did you indicate?
Thanks, Chair. Again, I echo my colleagues' view on the report so far. It's very good to see it as it is. The bit I'm quite pleased about as well is the clarity about if a person is seeking care or will be assessed for care, that they are clear that they sometimes might have to contribute. And that was a problem before, that lots of service users didn't realize that they had to contribute to the care, so therefore it becomes a problem, and then they complain because the message wasn't very clear. So that is good, and I'm just hoping and praying that you will continue with this, not just leave it here because we've started it looks very good at the moment, but continue with that. And complaints are not a problem. I'm not really that bothered about complaints as such, because people do make complaints, and complaints sometimes help us to grow. So hopefully, we'll move forward in a positive way. So thanks very much for this.
Thank you. Perhaps you can feed back the comments that have been made to your team. Hi, there's your team. There's your team. You got anybody that helps you. Good. Well done. If there are no further comments, can we move to the vote on the recommendation? All in favour? Anyone against? No, that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so perhaps now I can come to item 6, which is the Governance and Ethics Committee annual report, which is set out in front of you. I will move the recommendation, which is at the bottom of page 27.
Second it.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on this report? Yes.
It's on the fraud. Yeah. Just remind me, can you please, just remind me on the number of value of fraud. What caused the spike in 2019 and 20? I should know because I was chairman of the committee then, but it sort of escapes me.
Yeah, I remember discussing this at the time as well, and it was basically an attempted mandate fraud to extract potentially £1.9 million from the council by a contractor who had their records intercepted by a cyber scam and then set up a false account and tried to use our payment mechanism to extract money, and that was found out by the council.
So it was beer, was it? Was it beer?
I can't recall which payee it was, but the attack happened on our creditors system. But yeah, but it was a
a unique spike, which has stopped, but it actually proved that the mechanism that the council had in verifying changes to vendors and suppliers requesting payments identified the potential fraud, and it was stopped, and we didn't pay the money out, and that's why we record it as a potential error. But it was all good news to the council's existing systems that we managed to stop that and spot it.
And I think the emphasis is that this is fraud that has been prevented. You could perhaps look at it the other way around, that you stopped a lot of fraud and we're not stopping as much. But I don't think that is the case. The systems now are always being looked at and are extremely robust. One or two things do slip through, do they not? But they are one or two, and we take action, certainly legal action, if fraud is discovered to have been perpetrated against this authority. But again, I think this is another good news story. Are there any other comments? Yes, Councillor Henry.
I was going to say, I know the example that Bruce has highlighted is a huge sum of money, but if it's a small amount of money, is there a system where you will say, hold on a minute, this is, I don't know what the limit is in terms of how would you sort of be alerted to something that's going on if it's only a small amount, say £10,000 for example. Is there a system in place here that would pick that up as well?
I presume it's the same system that you employ, but can you confirm that?
Yes, indeed. To us, when the fraud is initiated or potential, the value doesn't matter, and we would take the appropriate action to see the consequence of that. And usually then, as we do the investigation, as we identify the values involved, that will determine then the level of redress that we seek. That could be from potential disciplinary action and financial recovery to prosecution by the police, etc. So that depends then on the severity and the conversation we will have with senior officers and the monitoring officer and section 151 as to which action we would prefer to take. But it's not just an arbitrary value. We haven't deliberately not put that into place.
We're taking care of every penny that the council taxpayer trusts us with. Thank you. If there are no further questions, the recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the Local Code of Corporate Governance and Annual Governance Statement, which again has been set out in the document for you, and there are two recommendations on page 34, which I'm happy to move.
Happy to second.
Any comments or questions from officers, first of all? No? Members?
Yeah,
Councillor Lawton.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just to really reiterate, this is an extremely important document. It's born out of one of the recommendations that came out from when Northamptonshire had a 114 notice. One of the reasons for that happening was the fact that the Governance and Ethics Committee was, and I think it was just the Governance Committee, was not reporting back to full council on its work programme and what it was doing during the year, and what impact it was having on the council's finance. So I think this is a good report, Mr. Chairman, and long may it continue. And really, just to reiterate how important it is to the council more than anything else that the Governance and Ethics Committee is actually delivering the checks and balances that are required within the authority.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say there's no danger of Nottinghamshire County Council falling into the same trap as other or some other local authorities and having to declare bankruptcy. Sorry? I think you could look nearer to home rather than talk about Northamptonshire. So I think you, yeah. You want me to move on? I thought you might. If there are no other comments or questions, the report has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? That's unanimous again. Thank you very much. The next item, item 8, is the Assurance Mapping Annual Report. And 3 recommendations on page 61, which I move. I second. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Get it right. Any comments from officers before I throw it open to members? Anything you want to add? You're happy with that? It's your report, so you should be. Yeah. Okay then, members. Any comments or questions? Councillor Lawton, you're becoming a bit of a nuisance.
Oh, I apologise. The assurance mapping system was set up to be able to allow those departments within the authority to basically audit themselves if they have a history of not being identified as an area requiring internal audit. My question really is that increasing, or is that decreasing, or is it remaining the same? Those number of departments which are being, sort of drawn into the assurance mapping process and being allowed to do their own audit.
So the assurance mapping process covers all of the departments using those 8 domains that we've identified to inquire. So our key role as looking at the 3 lines of defence is gathering that information from all of those departments that then give us the assurance that A, management have got processes, B, they're doing what they say, and if they've got some other external assurance that that's been tested and practiced and tried, then that then avoids internal audit actually needing to do that work. We take the results of that each year and build that into our termly planning process, and each term we'll review whether, if we've got good assurance from that assurance mapping process and actions in that department, that means that we do not need to go and then look at that particular department's audit processes directly ourselves, because we have the assurance from somebody else that might be doing that work. Might be the CQC, might be Ofsted, for example, give that assurance. So why do we need to go and do that ourselves? That's all about driving those efficiencies through our service and against the service of the council. So yes, that's done on an annual and a termly basis for our planning processes.
So you haven't really answered my question. So is it improving or getting better or getting worse?
The assurance mapping process is getting better because we've moved into everything having amber and green processes as well. And then from our annual report, you'll see that the opinions are actually getting better. There's less limited opinions, and we're getting better at having reasonable and substantial opinions as well. So in terms of that answer, yes, it's adding to the benefit. Yes, it's actually adding to the volume of opinions and better opinions across the council.
In short, Councillor Lawton, things have got a lot better since you left the committee. Something like that. Are there any? Oh, sorry.
If I may add also, that you have to remember the statutory officer's responsibilities also around the governance framework. And so the monitoring officer, myself, and the head of paid services do get the continual assurance as well in terms of across the council that internal audit put together for us on a monthly basis to also add to that assurance in terms of fulfilling our roles.
Mr. Chairman, I set the process up. The late lot, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Very good. And we've improved on it. Well done. Yes.
Yeah. I would also support Councillor.
You'd like to support?
I would like to support my.
One at a time, please.
I would support Councillor Lawton in that because I know he genuinely feels passionately about this. He was telling me so this morning, and
well, the pair of you need to get a life.
He was explaining to me the background and how it all works, and it makes complete sense.
I give it.
It's good,
Right.
genuinely.
What are you after? Right. With that endorsement of Councillor Lawton, which was unsolicited, I'm sure, can we move to the vote? All those in favour? Thank you. Never knew assurance mapping could be so entertaining. Right. Moving on. Item 9, Chief Internal Auditor's Annual Report. And I move the 2 recommendations on page 79.
Second.
Thank you. Anything you wish to add, or you're quite happy for members to comment? Councillor Lawton, are you commenting or whispering in Councillor Butler's ear? Right. No comments or questions on this? Internal Auditors Annual Report? All right then. Recommendation has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. The next item, item 10, is an annual report on the use of Councillors' Divisional Fund. This is to make sure that the process is completely transparent. You've got there in front of you every payment made on behalf of every councillor in this council and to whom it has been paid. And I think this is an important document in terms of transparency, so that nothing whatsoever is hidden. There is a recommendation, which three recommendations, page 102, and I draw your attention particularly to recommendation 3, that councillors be encouraged to spread their applications more evenly throughout the financial year, and where relevant to seek support and assistance from democratic services officers in using the electronic system. I find it by and large quite easy to use. I can't see any reason why it shouldn't be now being universally used by members themselves. Occasionally there are glitches and you just ring up democratic services and they put it right. There's been one recently, I think, over the bank details, but that's been resolved. So please note that third recommendation. So I'm moving that the recommendations.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions? Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Chairman. I support the scheme. I think it's very useful, and when you look at the details of where it's been spent, it speaks volumes to me. On item 3, I was pleased to see that, quote, all funds were actually spent in 23-24. So to me, that endorses the scheme because it's been fully spent. And personally, I'd like to see it remain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no... Councillor Butler, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, yes, at the risk of sounding like a sad person who needs more to read, these are always interesting to read, actually, just to see the spread of the type of projects that councillors are funding. And also, if I may just also add my support to the electronic system. I remember that I was one of the... what's the word? Guinea pigs. I was one of the members who trialled it before it went live, and it does work very well. And I have to, and one of the other most useful things about it as well is I don't know whether colleagues are like me on this, but sometimes we can easily forget how much we've got left in the budget to spend. And when you click on this electric page, it tells you what you've got left, what's left after the one you're working on. So I know we've probably said it before, but well done to the team who actually came up with this, because as electronic systems go, it's user friendly and useful as well. So,
Did he approve by and large?
well, well, yes, I use it.
Which it needs to be, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think what is interesting looking at this report is the amount of work that and activity that is going on across Nottinghamshire. In areas where wouldn't perhaps necessarily think of it, but it really is encouraging the breadth and the depth of activities that are available in this county, and we're able to support that as a county council in small ways, and that is important. It enhances the quality of life for everyone in this county. If there are no further comments or questions, I'll move to the vote on the recommendations. All in favour? That's fine, thank you. And the last item on the agenda is the work programme, which is always a moving feast, but that's what we've got in mind at the moment. So there is a recommendation on page 134 concerning the work programme, which I move.
Second.
Thank you very much. If there are no comments or questions, move to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much for your attendance, and I think we've met the monitoring officer's requirement to finish quite quickly so she can get off and do what she's got to do.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll